Zach Lavine is currently having one of the best seasons of his career, in a season where the Bulls have pivoted from their previous roster iteration, where they were looking to win now under DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, to now a roster where they have taken a path of a youth movement, a rebuild, whatever you want to call it. And throughout this time, dating all the way back to last season, it's been clear that the Bulls have been trying to shop Zach Lavine on the trade market, with last season actually being a point of mutual interest on both sides in a desire to part ways. And then this season, while the relationship seems to have been repaired and both sides have been able to keep things professional, there is still this understanding that Zach Lavine no longer fits the Bulls' overall timeline and what they're trying to do. But as I took a step back and thought about the way Zach has been playing, I realized I actually haven't appreciated just how well Zach has handled himself throughout this process and situation that the Bulls find themselves in, a situation that could gotten very messy based on how things were trending dating all the way back to last season, and I'm here to talk about it. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, if you remember at the start of last season, the Bulls got off to that very poor start. Nothing was working, vibes were bad, Vucevic was checked out, Zach was checked out, the team was losing some very bad games where they weren't even competitive, and it came out that Zach and the Bulls had agreed that it would be best to find a new home for him. And you could see it in Zach's demeanor on the court. He just wasn't happy. He also wasn't playing that well, which didn't help. Reports were coming out that he never got over that benching from the season prior against the Orlando Magic when he had that terrible game and Billy Donovan sat him to close it out. There was talk that the relationship between him and Donovan was frayed and likely beyond repair. Then, of course, Zach gets injured. He's deemed out for the rest of the season, thus killing any potential trade that could have occurred leading up to the deadline, even though the Bulls were already having a hard time finding a team willing to take on his contract. But he goes down with an injury, ends up only playing 25 games all season, and of course, the rumors, speculation started getting out. Did Zach really need that surgery that put him out for the rest of the season? It wasn't clear whether the Bulls actually agreed that that was the best course of action, and speculation on them being unhappy with that decision where they felt that it wasn't entirely necessary. None of this, of course, was confirmed to be true, by the way, but rather what some reports were speculating as the timing of the injury and deciding to have the surgery was a little suspect shortly before the trade deadline, and there had been growing interest from the Detroit Pistons. And so throughout this whole time period, the Bulls, of course, close out the season, missing the playoffs, and everyone was saying, hey, the longer this stretches out and Zach remains with this team, the messier this divorce is going to be. And I honestly thought that as well. I thought under no circumstances the Bulls can have Zach Lavine still on this roster by the start of the season. He has to be moved over the offseason, especially after the Bulls moved DeMar and Alex Caruso, because he's not going to buy into this new direction. He's going to do whatever he can to try to force his way out, not play team basketball, and just stuff the stat sheet to try and get a team to trade for him. And it's going to be to the detriment of some of these younger guys who need to be developed. And I have to say, I was completely wrong. And look, I acknowledge that sometimes I am a bit harder on Zach because I have high expectations of him, but he has handled himself so well both on and off the court for this team. He could have sulked and wished that he was playing for a contender. He could have tried to sit out games. He could have tried to just go for 40 every night so teams would notice him and trade for him. But he's been incredibly professional and mature about the whole situation. He's been bought into what the Bulls are doing on offense. He's been playing much smarter basketball. And above all, he's been playing team basketball and doing whatever he can to help this team win. And wouldn't you know it, he's playing some of the best ball of his career right now. Insanely efficient on offense, putting up over 23 points per game on 50, 45, 81 shooting splits. He's posting the highest true shooting percentage of his career at an insane 64%, which is top 20 in the NBA right now. He's doing this to go along with his 4.6 rebounds and 4.5 assists, but more importantly, impacting winning, which I know maybe for some Bulls fans that bothers them because they don't want to be winning, but that's a different debate. But Zach Lavine is putting the best on-off numbers of his career. Yes, that even includes his 2 All-Star seasons, where the Bulls are a net 9.1 points better when Zach Lavine is on the floor, which is actually pretty significant when you consider the fact that the Bulls aren't that great of a team. Their overall net rating is 22nd in the NBA. So the fact that they're that much better when Zach is on the court is significant. And it's significant to me because Zach is always talked about as not being a winning player, a great scorer, high volume scorer, gifted athlete, but not a winning player. And while some of those criticisms maybe have had some truth to it in the past when you look at his overall on-court rating and box plus minus throughout his career, but this season, He's shattering all of those perceptions that he doesn't impact winning. This season, he most certainly has, and it's in large part why the Bulls are exceeding expectations right now relative to where people had projected them to start the year. Zach Lavine, rather than thinking about his contract, his next team, where his future stands, is just hooping and blocking out all the noise that has been surrounding him in his tenure in Chicago. And a lot of credit and respect has to go to him for how he's shown up, especially compared to how things were trending with him and his relationship with the Bulls dating all the way back to the beginning of last season. For me personally, I've definitely gained a newfound respect for Zach, because he could have pulled a James Harden when he was forcing his way out of Philly, or Houston before that, or Ben Simmons when he was forcing his way out of Philly, or he could have been doing what Jimmy Butler's doing right now and being a headache to deal with and not showing up the way his team needs him to be. Zach could have been that guy. He took the high road instead, kept a more positive outlook, realizing he's got nothing to be upset about. Got his max contract, a growing family, and just focusing on what he does best in playing the game of basketball. My hat goes off to him for that, because the whole thing could have gotten really ugly. And now, whenever Zach does in fact get traded, I guess I should say if now, because who knows, but whenever Zach gets traded, it's going to end on a positive note where he will be celebrated and cheered for whenever he comes back to play at the United Center. I don't think we could have said that about Zach had he been traded last season with all the drama going on around him. It would have been a bitter ending where a lot of Bulls fans wouldn't have been as welcoming in seeing him back on another team. What's crazy to me is that the Bulls still haven't been able to find a trade for this guy based on the way he's playing. It does lead me to wonder a couple things, whether one, AK is actually asking for the moon and is completely out of touch with reality on what is a realistic trade for him, or, I guess it kind of goes with the first point, execs around the NBA, after some of the blunder of trades made by AK, other teams just don't take him seriously and are giving him lowball offers because they know they can get away with it. That said, yes, we know the rules of the new CBA are making it rather limiting to find a trade for Zach at his contract, which I'm sure has been the biggest hang-up in trying to move him in a trade. But just knowing what AK has done in putting together this team, I can't say I really have a ton of confidence in him that he's doing the best in some of these trade discussions. Anyway, that's a side note. The point is, shout out to Zach Lavine and how he's shown up this season as a true professional. Would love to hear what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.